Hey, what's up? We're back. The first round recently just finished, and I think it's fitting that we at least talk about it for a little bit. So we're going to recap the entire first round, and you can just start off.
Alright, first I guess we can go straight into the Philadelphia-Washington series, which was a 4-1 gentleman's sweep. What is your thoughts about that?
Philly did what they were supposed to do. I guess their big three, they looked like they knew what they were going to do. You know, Tobias Harris played well, Ben Simmons played well, and Joel Embiid played well. However, he had that little injury, which should be a little bit worrying for a little bit later, but I think he should be fine. Other than that, we've learned that Hackett Simmons has been working because I think he was 0 of 9 from the line through the entire series. Something like
37% overall in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, and I remember he was 0 of 9 in something. So yeah, Ben Simmons, you better get your shooting up at least if you're going to keep advancing. But anyway, this is not a surprise. Philly looked amazing. We're just waiting to see how they'll do in the next round.
What do you think of how Washington played, and what should they look at moving forward?
I think, Washington is an 8 seed, so expectedly they won't win. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, I guess they were fine, but right now they're somewhat in the middle. They're not going to win anything, but they're not really going to drop too many games, being the lowest seed, so they're in the middle. I guess if they want to keep, the crowd a little bit going, they want to win a little bit more, they're going to run it back. But if not, they should probably just get some extra pieces or develop their young guys as usual, because they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
When do you think they'll finally pull the plug and either trade Westbrook or Beal? And when do you think that will happen, and what do you think they'll get in return?
To be honest, I have no clue with what they're going to do. But if they're going to make a move, how many years does Bradley Beal have on his contract?
He's going to enter his final year, and then he has like a player option, but he's most likely going to decline that.
Decline the player option, so what that means, he's leaving, am I right? No.
Well, he has been loyal to Washington, but I mean, after next year, he's going to be a free agent, so, who knows what might happen, and Washington might be willing to maybe get at least something back for him.
Well, Bradley Beal is averaging 30. He is one of the best scorers in the league. I say if Washington really wants to go for a push, I recommend they trade Westbrook for good pieces or a huge piece that is enough to, help get Washington more wins. And if so, they're probably going to have to trade young guys for established veterans as well. They have Rui Hachimura, they have Daniel Gafford, they have Danny Avdija, who's a lottery pick. So they have some I know, but they have some pieces they can trade in order to, maybe get a few veterans and get maybe a middle seed in the East if they want to. But if not, I'd recommend they just blow it up, trade Westbrook and Beal for young pieces and move on from there.
Yeah, I think I agree with the trading Beal and Westbrook. I think they can't get really much better than what they were this year. Obviously, they had Thomas Bryant injured and Danny Avdija was injured later in the year. But I think if you get something for Beal at least, they might start a full rebuild. I doubt you can get anything good for Westbrook just because of his big contract, and he still has an extra year after Beal's contract is done, so that may be a little bit hard. But overall, I think Washington was a team who we expected to maybe make a push for the playoffs. They made it. They actually won a game in Washington against Philadelphia, but overall, I just think that they're just not there yet, and I think even with an extra piece, they wouldn't be. So for Washington, I just advise either get luck out in the lottery or maybe try to make a push for a rebuild. For Philly, they did what they were supposed to do. They looked really good, better than previous year, but also that was when Simmons was injured. And I think this is their year where they might make the conference finals or even the NBA finals. What do you think about that?
I think with how with the fact that they got Doc Rivers, they got Seth Curry, who is really underrated, especially in the playoffs. I believe at least conference finals. I think that's a given. They're playing Atlanta now. They're not good defensively at all. And in the nail biter of the first game, Atlanta was just firing everywhere. They started off excellent. They were up by 20-something, and then Philadelphia rallied back. And it was a little issue with Philly because Embiid wasn't playing that much. There was a period where he was sitting for quite a long time, while Atlanta was getting their shots up. So that may be a little bit worrying with Embiid's injury, but if Embiid's back to like, let's say 90%, 85%, I think Philadelphia has potential to pull it off in maybe 6. But if Embiid still is worrying and Simmons doesn't hit his free throws, it will be problems for Philly.
Yeah, we'll see how that series goes. As torn meniscus can be quite a problem, but you can play through it. But it might be lingering pain, and it could hurt later on. But we'll see how that series goes, and I guess we can move on to the next.
Go ahead.
All right, we have Brooklyn versus Boston, also a 5-game series where Brooklyn just absolutely decimated the Celtics. Your thoughts?
No surprise. Once Jaylen Brown got injured, our season was over. Celtics season, I think it was bound to happen that our season was going to cut short early, and then Jaylen Brown got injured, and then that just made everything a lot worse. But if there's anything we learned, Jason Tatum is on the cusp of being a superstar, somebody who can be the number one player on a championship team. He's not there yet, but he dropped 50. He managed to steal a game. But still, it's not like with the big 3 in Brooklyn, it's not enough. You can tell it is not enough. Brooklyn has more depth, they have more talent, they have everything else you would want in a team that the Celtics doesn't have. So yeah, Brooklyn just sweep through us like nothing.
Also, with the surprising moves the Celtics made with having Brad Stevens as their new GM and now having the coaching spot open, what do you think their goal should be for the offseason and moving forward?
They should definitely look forward to trade Kemba, and if they want to get a big star, I would say also, if they want to, they can include Smart, because yes, Boston loves Marcus Smart. He is hustle. He has been the heart and soul of the team. He can't shoot to save his life sometimes. Sometimes he gets really hot. I remember he hit 11 threes one game. Then the other he can go 0 for 7. However, I wouldn't be mad if we kept him because we know what he brings. But also, I wouldn't be mad if we traded him along with Kemba for a big star that could help us push to a championship aspiration.
Yeah, what do you think about Fournier?
Oh yeah, we have to re-sign him. We should definitely re-sign him, 100%.
And I know we've talked a lot about the coaches, but I guess you can say right here, what is your prediction of who is going to be the next Celtics coach?
I've heard that we've been talking about Lloyd Pierce and Jason Kidd. I think Jason Kidd is slowly increasing because I remember he pulled out of a deal with Portland. So maybe it could be Jason Kidd, but looking at Lloyd Pierce and how he acted as the coach with Atlanta, he's very, by looks of it, he was hot-headed, he's very serious. Boston could use that, so I think Lloyd Pierce could also be our new coach.
But also of the players you've mentioned, other than those two, who's like somebody you would want to see as our coach?
100%. I definitely want Chauncey Billups as our coach. I think right now he's the assistant coach of the Clippers. I believe it's his first coaching job. But I think Chauncey Billups would be excellent as our coach, knowing that he has championship experience. He knows what it takes to play in the finals as he won the chip. So if Chauncey Billups wants to take a shot at being the Boston coach, I would welcome him with open arms. Just as how Brooklyn welcomed Steve Nash, because Steve Nash is doing an excellent job as the Brooklyn coach.
A lot of people have said maybe Kevin Garnett should be the coach, but he also wrote on his Instagram that that's never going to happen because he would be fired in like a week time. But for me, Chauncey Billups sounds like a good idea. I've also heard about Juwan Howard and Sam Cassell as other potential good options for the Celtics. So I'm really just hoping that they find the right coach, and maybe with their new system, Boston could reach some new highs.
Let's hope so.
And with Brooklyn, I'm really surprised with how they played. They completely wiped the floor, and even now, midway through the Milwaukee series, they've completely decimated them, like leaving Milwaukee no chance, even with Harden out, with Jeff Green out, with Spencer Dinwiddie out, and LaMarcus Aldridge retired. So imagine if that team was full strength.
I think they could. They would. I think they would actually sweep every single round until the finals.
That would be really crazy. But yeah, Brooklyn just looks so strong right now.
Well,
in my opinion, the best team in the East right now.
100%.
The playoffs. Yeah.
It's hard to disagree.
And I don't really see anybody stopping them, at least so far.
The fact that they wiped the floor versus Milwaukee, and they were up by 40 something, 50 at one point, and you don't have James Harden on the floor. That's absurd, in my opinion. James Harden, in my opinion, is like the most valuable piece in that Nets team solely because of his playmaking. Because you don't have a lot of playmaking without Harden. But I guess that just doesn't matter when you have two ISO demons in Kyrie and KD, with also Blake Griffin deciding to dunk again.
Yeah, he was really good on those hustle plays in that first game, as well as the whole Boston series. He was just great. But yeah, hoping for speedy recovery for Harden, and well, I think even before the season, I thought Brooklyn was like meant to be in the finals, and even after the Harden trade, it just boosted even more. So right now, they just look unstoppable. And
even without Harden, I would say that boosted it even more, in my opinion.
Yeah, even with Harden, they still look like the best team in the East.
Man, right. Giannis has not been that good, as you would expect. In my opinion, he should have done a little bit better. Looking at how Brooklyn centers, they have Nick Claxton, who's decent. But I believe he should have maybe been a little bit more assertive, in my opinion.
Yeah, and talking about Giannis, I guess we can move on to the next series, where Milwaukee swept Miami. And how do you think Milwaukee played in that series compared to Miami?
How Milwaukee played versus Miami compared to how they play versus Brooklyn?
Or no, how did Milwaukee play in comparison to how Miami played them?
How did Milwaukee play in comparison to how Miami played them?
Was it either that Milwaukee played good, or was it Miami playing just bad?
I'd say it's both. Milwaukee was... They were getting their shots up. They were hitting everything. Dante was there at a period of time. So they looked really good. Chris Milton was hitting shots versus Miami. He wasn't hitting as much versus Brooklyn. But also, Miami was terrible. Jimmy Butler scored less points than Milwaukee's role player Bryn Forbes. So I'd say it's a lot more on how bad Miami played.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, so we know Dante is going to be out for the whole playoffs. But I think still a lingering problem with the Milwaukee team is that Budenholzer just doesn't want to play his starters for an extended period of time. Even in like one of the previous games, I think it was game 1 versus Brooklyn, they played him just 36 minutes. Even after Harden was injured and Steve Nash played his starters for 40 minutes, 44 minutes, he still decided to play Giannis and Middleton like 36, 34 minutes. I think in a playoff game where it's like a must-win, this is unacceptable, don't you think?
This is by far disappointing from Budenholzer, in my opinion. I mean, you have the stars, why not use them to their max capacity? I mean, unless if the game is completely over, then I understand you won't play them a lot, but if you have a chance to win, use them, unless if they're in foul trouble as well.
Yeah, and for Miami, I mean, would you say that the bubble was like something that they thrived in, and if it wasn't the bubble, they wouldn't be as good last year?
Looking at this series, yes. Miami improved on they lost Jay Crowder and they lost Derrick Jones Jr., which was huge. They got back some other pieces, but they weren't doing as much. I believe if they kept maybe one of the wing players they had, who could play great defense, by the way, they would have done better. But Miami in the bubble is a one-time thing. Just like the Heat reaching the finals. I don't think they're going to do it anytime soon again, looking at how they got swept by the Bucks and looking at how the Bucks are playing now versus Brooklyn. Miami, I guess at this rate, Miami was a fluke in the bubble because of how bad they played this year, and looking at how Milwaukee's getting smacked by Brooklyn.
Yeah, that Jay Crowder thing really hit hard because he's doing so well in Phoenix, and he was like a crucial part of that run for them last year to make the finals. But Miami, I mean, they're going to have huge decisions now with Oladipo. Do you re-sign him? Because he's probably not going to play next year. Jimmy Butler, last year of his deal. Do you want to pay him the Supermax and have him earning over $50 million at the age of 37? I think Miami has a lot of tough decisions to make, and if they can improve their team from what it was this year, I think it's going to be hard for them to make it even close to being out of the second round. Don't you think?
Yeah, I guess it's like that. But you also have to look at how Jimmy performed in the playoffs, as he was abysmal. Is that really worth the Supermax? It's a tough question to ask, in my opinion. But
last year, you probably, like after last year's finals, you would probably pay the Supermax. But after this year, like overall for Miami, it's just been really, really disappointing.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, and now for maybe the most anticipated series, but wasn't really that interesting after all, because Atlanta just completely wiped the floor with the New York Knicks.
Oh my god. I was rooting for the Knicks so much solely because, man, you just want to see the Knicks succeed. You just want to see them do well. And they were Julius Randle was so bad in the playoffs. He looked like Julius Randle from last year. Like going into trouble, bad passes, missing everything. Derrick Rose was one of the only bright spots for the Knicks. The only bright spot. He averaged 25. Your quote-unquote sixth man is your best player in the playoffs. Man, something's got to change. But yet again, it is Julius Randle's first playoff berth, if I'm mistaken. And
I think he might have been. I'm curious. Maybe didn't he make it with Anthony Davis in New Orleans?
Oh yeah, that may be true. Yeah, I think so. But anyway, as the main guy, first playoff berth where you have a big expectations on your shoulders, and you go out like that. He was shooting abysmal for the first 2-3 games. Yes, New York Knicks got one, but this just proves that Trae Young is something special. Looking at Trae Young in the playoffs, he drives in, gets all 5 guys' attention, either a free lob to Capella, or a floater, or a kickout, where they have more veterans who can hit shots. Bogdanovic was amazing. Gallinari wasn't as good, but you knew he could hit some shots. DeAndre Hunter was amazing as well, and Kevin Huerter was great. So when you're Atlanta and looking at how you took game 1 from Philly, this is incredible from Atlanta.
Yeah, I definitely did not expect them to make it out of the first round. I thought it was going to be a dogfight, but just how easily they handled New York. And I agree with the fact that Randle kind of reverted back to his previous year form, but also you got to give props to Atlanta's defense, because that was amazing the whole series. And yeah, I agree with the Trae Young. He was definitely crazy in that series. I think he broke a record, or now he's like, him and Michael Jordan are the only players to score 30 plus in consecutive games in MSG in the playoffs. So that's some history right there. And I think Atlanta, they're just gonna improve because they have young pieces, and they got him, like even the Capella thing, they got him basically for free. So for them in the future, it's probably just going to be looking at how they can keep Collins. But other than that, their team looks pretty stacked, and they're just ready to roll right now. They're built for the playoffs, as you said yesterday.
Definitely. And what disappointed me with the Knicks is that they were one of the best defensive teams in the league. And we understand their offense isn't as good, but come on. I remember they scored like 84 points in a game, I believe, in the end of a game. They just couldn't score to save their lives. But when you have such an incredible offensive team such as the Hawks, I guess you could really want to say that you want better offense over no defense. Because you're going to have to be capable of defending anyway, but if you're struggling to score, that kind of stays.
Yeah, New York got triple-digit games in 2 of those 5. So you can definitely say that Atlanta had some great defense. And Atlanta had over 100 points in 4 out of the 5 games. So you can definitely say that Atlanta was also the better offensive team. But yeah, what do you think New York, they're going to come up on a big free agency where they have a lot of cap space. How do you think they should move forward? How they can improve the team to, contend in the future?
I believe they should gun for whoever you can get. Gun for the top guy. Looking at how you still have Derrick Rose, you have Emmanuel Quickley, you have Julius Randle, you have RJ Barrett. You have those guys.
Derrick Rose is a free agent, but I think that would be New York's top priority to try to re-sign him.
100%. But let's say they do get him. I believe they should use the remaining cap space to get anybody they can get. New York is the biggest market in the NBA. Who doesn't want to see a superstar who's in the free agency ball out in the Garden? If they get a big star, I believe you should trade your young assets to get established veterans, as many championship teams do. You keep one of the young assets if they have played well in the playoffs. I say you keep Emmanuel Quickley because he has a spark plug off the bench, Other than that, I'd say anybody else could be expendable. Mitchell Robinson, we haven't seen him yet. I want to see how he'll do in the playoffs. Nerlens Noel had an ankle injury and he was struggling a bit. But I say you keep him as well to maybe become your center off the bench. But if anything, Knicks get a great free agent. They should trade some young assets for established veterans who prove to play well in the playoffs.
Yeah, happy to at least see the Knicks in the playoffs for like what has felt like an eternity, and just hoping they can move on from this and improve for next year's. Should we move on to the Western Conference?
Let's go.
Utah versus Memphis. Also a 5-game series. A little bit of a scare after the first game where we didn't see Donovan Mitchell, and we saw Memphis Grizzlies take game 1. But after that, it was a gentleman's sweep by Utah. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, Utah just has so many weapons. It's absurd to think that. Their starting 5 mesh well together. Their 6-man in Jordan Clarkson, 6-man runner-up Joe Ingles. They have Royce O'Neal. They have so many pieces. They have Georges Niang as well. They got so many pieces. They have an 8-man rotation, which will clearly work in the playoffs. And I'm excited to see how they'll do later. Right now, they're playing... Who are they playing in the second round? They are playing...
The Clippers.
They're playing the Clippers. This will be the biggest test for them, 100%. If they beat the Clippers, I'll definitely see them in the finals. Because what they have clearly shown is that when you keep your assets, you keep your team together for an extended period of time. And when you see them mesh well together, this is a great example of that. I expect Utah to play well versus the Clippers. I don't know if they'll win, but I expect them to give a better fight. A much better fight than what Dallas did. Although Dallas forced in 7, it was mostly only Luka. I expect Utah to have more role players step up than what they did in Dallas.
Yeah,
but,
and what? Okay, continue.
Yeah, my bad. Speaking of the series versus Memphis, John Morant is special. He's been excellent in the playoffs. Dylan Brooks is the most underrated 3-and-D player I've seen. I watched him versus Golden State in the play-in game. He's taking Steph Curry full court, and because he is so strong, it's tough to move past it. He is an excellent asset for the Grizzlies, and I recommend they keep him if they can, whenever they can, for the future.
All right. Yeah, for me, I like that Utah have their 8-9-man rotation. They have obviously Conley, Mitchell, O'Neal, Bogdanovic, and Gobert, and off the bench they have Clarkson, Ingles, Favors. Occasionally they play Niang, and they also have players like Ilyasova, Matt Thomas, who are great three-point shooters that don't even really get playing time. So, and I think one of the reasons why they were so good this year is because they've been mostly healthy, other than a little bit of injuries from Donovan Mitchell at the end. But they've been mostly healthy, and they've just been looking dominant the whole year. But for Memphis, I think this is a nice experience for them. Of course, John Morant has been playing well. They can definitely build off of this, but for Memphis, seeing as their season has ended, what do you think they should be looking at in the offseason?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Get any asset you can. Try and maybe make a bout for the playoffs, but let John Morant do his thing. Let the role players do their thing. That's all I can say, really.
All right. Moving on to the next series, which was very surprising for me because of the way the Lakers went. Now, it's obviously the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Phoenix beat the defending champs in 6. Obviously, the Lakers had many injuries and then LeBron giving up in the end, and they just didn't look like the championship team that they did last year.
Man, the Lakers, they're so disappointing. You can clearly see that they missed Dwight, they missed Danny Green, and who else did they get rid of? They got rid of one more guy, if I'm correct. And JaVale, although he got a little bit of minutes here and there. You can clearly see the rim protection wasn't there. You can clearly see that. And also that defensive effort. Danny Green is a good defender. Dwight and JaVale, great defenders. Who do you get back? You get Dennis Schroeder, cannot defend. You get Montrezl.
Dennis Schroeder is a nice defender.
Nice defender?
Yes.
On-ball defender. Okay, then it's my fault. I mean, I didn't pay that much attention to him, I'm not gonna lie. My fault about that, Dennis. He went 0 of 9 in one game, and it didn't look good. I guess he's a good on-ball defender. I guess that's my fault on that.
He plays. I don't know, but he plays feisty defense. He guards full court, like you say with Dylan Brooks. So he's probably not a player you would like to go up against if you're a point guard.
Okay, then that's my fault. Then that's on me. They had Montrezl Harrell as well, and they also had Wes Matthews. But LeBron James, when he got injured, right? He said he was never going to be 100% again. You could clearly see that in the playoffs. He was sluggish at times, didn't go back on defense. He's not that ferocious at the rim anymore. So you could see LeBron was struggling with fatigue quite a bit. And Anthony Davis, man, I feel so bad for him that he has to go through all these injuries, because I believe the Lakers would have done a lot better if AD played better and if he wasn't as injury prone. But what can you do? There isn't much you can do. But Kyle Kuzma scored 2 points in one game. That's not acceptable. That is not acceptable at all. I should stop talking about the Lakers, and I should more appreciate the Phoenix Suns for how excellent job they did. DeAndre Ayton averaged like 16 and 11, 16 and 12 in that series, shooting great efficiency, but awful from the line. Devin Booker, superstar, dropped 40-something. And Chris Paul. Yeah, we don't have to talk about Chris Paul. We already know what Chris Paul will do. And most importantly also, their role players was exceptional, stepping up. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, all those guys.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about the 100% thing. I know LeBron commented about it on his what was it, like a barber video? Like he does this yearly like barbershop interview thing. He didn't mean it as he'll never be 100%. Like he said it as he's never going to be 100% because you're 99.9 after you start playing professionally. Like you're never going to get 100% just because you've been playing for 17 years. You won't get back to that body that you had when you were 18 or 19. But like he feels good, but obviously that ankle was bothering him, and you could definitely tell. But I think it was just the Lakers a little bit underwhelming with all their injuries and everything, and Phoenix just playing as they should play. They were amazing. You named all the good players they had. They all stepped up. And I mean, for the Lakers, I also wanted to mention they didn't have Rajon Rondo, so maybe that's also a big key because he's a playmaker. And Anthony Davis has never won a series without Rondo. Just a fun fact.
Yeah.
He won with Rondo in New Orleans. Obviously, they won the championship when Rondo was on the Lakers. But ever since Rondo has not been there, AD just hasn't been winning. That's just a random stat, but yeah. I mean, the Lakers, Montrezl Harrell didn't really show much. They were stacked at centers, but they didn't really find the correct pieces to take advantage of the height they had. So it's going to be interesting to see how their offseason is, and hopefully they can come back healthy and try to go for another championship next year.
I think next year is the last chance the Lakers have, to really go for a championship run.
You think so? How long do you think LeBron will last?
I mean,
the way he has so far.
That's why I said next year. You see that his athleticism has gone down. He's getting way more fatigued. And with the Lakers and the key players that they have, I think next year is one of the last years they're going to have with LeBron and AD reaching the finals, in my opinion. I think next year they should gun it all out. If they win, they win. If not, they don't. But I don't think the Lakers will... I don't think they will reach the finals necessarily years after that because LeBron is catching up in age.
Yeah, what do you think of Schroeder? The way he declined that contract extension, like 4 or 5 years, $90 million, and now playing like he played in the first round. What do you think his future is?
Fumbled the bag, my guy. Fumbled the bag.
Do you see his future in LA, or do you think
that is tough to explain? I have no clue, to be honest.
Also, they had some apparent beef maybe with Montrezl Harrell, but also he hasn't been playing well, and he has a player option, so. It could be that this team just implodes and a lot of players leave, but knowing that it's LA and it's a big market, that also might not happen, but it's just a possibility after the way the season ended.
Definitely, definitely. We'll only see what happens next season, though.
Yeah, alright. So I guess we're done with this series, yeah?
Yep.
We can move on to Denver versus Portland, a 6-game series where Denver beat Portland. For me, it was quite surprising because without Jamal, without Will Barton, all those pieces, Portland still managed to lose.
Yeah, I remember when we made the video about this, we both were disagreeing with who we believed would advance. You believe Portland would advance, I believe Denver would advance. Jokic is just amazing, man, and Denver really has excellent pieces that are willing to, play for their role. Have you seen Campazzo this series?
Yep.
Campazzo, incredible, yeah. Absolutely incredible. They also have Austin Rivers who can hit an occasional shot as well. That's really good as well. For Denver, I believe they were going to win solely because Jokic is an MVP. He has been absolutely amazing in the playoffs for years, and I couldn't see Denver losing. Personally, I couldn't see them losing. Michael Porter Jr. absolutely excellent as well. And with Portland, they have had issues where they have just fell short in the playoffs. There's been a situation where Dame has not been good. CJ stepped up, and in this case, Damian Lillard stepped up. Nobody else did. I remember CJ and I believe Robert Covington. They were just not shooting well while Dame had 55, and they ended up losing. So, and now there are many questions about how Dame is gonna approach this offseason, whether he's gonna stay or is he gonna leave.
Yeah, we also know that they parted ways with their coach. Damian Lillard wanted Jason Kidd, but Jason Kidd really declined that. So this is going to be a big offseason for Portland, and they'll really tell the way or the direction they're going to be headed. CJ McCollum's value was probably the highest before he got injured this year, where they could have maybe struck out a move for potentially a James Harden with the way CJ was playing at the start of the year. But right now, I don't even know. Like, there have been teams rumored to want CJ, but what could Portland potentially get in return that would help them? And depending on who they get, Lillard will decide on his future, and we know he's been loyal to his team, but how loyal can you stay? At what point do you say, okay, this is enough, I want to try something else?
It is.
What do you think?
It is a tough dilemma for somebody like Dame, because he is one of the most loyal players in the league. And if I'm correct, he said, maybe rings doesn't matter, and he wants to be loyal, but if he really wants to win, I believe he should leave Portland and have a true second star with him. But it's tough. It is really tough when you've been carrying a team for so much. You have that connection with them. Then suddenly you're gonna leave. It is tough. It is really tough.
Yeah, I guess this offseason, as I said, will be very crucial for Portland. But speaking about Denver, of course, they're moving on to the second round versus Phoenix. They recently lost their first game, but for that first round against Portland, Jokic just showed why he is the MVP. And I don't really expect much from Denver just because of the players they have out. But maybe this is good for Denver. They don't have any pressure, and they can just play with fun, play with a lot of passing like they always do, and maybe, who knows, maybe they can make it to the conference finals and maybe even more. Would that be crazy if they made it to conference finals?
I would love it if, with Denver and Phoenix, I would love if both of them played in the conference finals. They are two of my favorite teams in the Western Conference, but unfortunately, it's the semifinals. I wouldn't be mad if either of them made it. However, I believe Phoenix is the better matchup. Looking at how they lost Jamal Murray, I'm talking about Denver, they lost Jamal Murray and Will Barton. I believe Phoenix will pull it out because they took game one. Phoenix has more depth, and I believe if Phoenix does play Utah or the Clippers, it will be a dogfight in the finals. It will be a big dogfight, but it's a tough thing. But I would love to see either of them in the finals.
Also, props to DeAndre Ayton. His defense on Jokic. Jokic finished last night's game with 22, 9, and 3. Which are all below his playoff average. So it just shows how valuable Ayton is so far.
Yeah, just took him down to only 22 and 9, and that's
for a player like
Jokic,
game. That is good. Like, there are some players you can't stop. You just can't stop. You can just only try to contain, and I think Ayton did a really good job.
I'm not gonna argue with that on there. I'm not gonna
No,
argue.
but if a guy shot like 6 of 22, I'd probably say that's good defense.
Oh, definitely.
I don't really know the amount of field goals Jokic took, but having only 22 points on a team without having Murray or Barton, I think that's really good defense from Ayton.
Yeah, when Jokic has to step up offensively and you force him to only 22.
10 of 23,
Yeah.
so that's 43%. I'd say that's pretty good
Okay,
defense.
that is really good, actually. Jokic averaged like 50% from the field, around that mark. And yeah, actually, I'd say that's a good job. Really good
And
job.
also Ayton got 20 and 10, so I think that's a really great game from Ayton, both offensively and defensively. So I'm really excited for what Phoenix can bring. And with the way they've been clicking as of late, I can definitely see them making to the conference finals, even finals.
I mean, they were the second seed. I mean, yes, the Lakers went down to 7. But if Phoenix beats the reigning champs with 2 excellent pieces, why not can they win the entire thing?
Yeah. I mean, starting off the playoffs, you'd probably think, damn, Phoenix tried all this year to be the second seed and only to face the reigning champs in the first round. But with the way they've been playing, they just completely prove as to why they should be one of the best teams and why they should be crowned champions this year.
It's excellent to see what Chris Paul can do. It's insane to see how good Chris Paul does with every team that he plays for. This just makes me appreciate Chris Paul a lot more, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, even a 35, 36, what age he is right now, he just keeps on playing well. And even though he had that injury in Game 1, he just continued to play. Maybe he is still hurting, but he's played to his standards. And as we see right now, it's only W's from here.
I mean, it seemed like his shoulder got a lot better towards the end of the game, end of Game 1 versus Denver, because he ended up with 21 and 11, I believe. Something like that.
Also 6 rebounds, so that means he was, active at the defensive board.
The only issue I have with Phoenix, or potential issue, has to be injuries. If Phoenix stays healthy, they have a chance to win the entire thing. 100%.
Yeah, I think this team right now, like, with all the moves they should be making after a lot of the players will be free agents maybe, why try to fix something that's not broken? I think if they have a successful playoff run, even make it to the conference finals, I'd say run it back. Like, this has been an amazing year so far. Monty Williams has done a great job. First playoff win as a coach, so it can only go up from here from Phoenix.
I'm excited to see Phoenix's future. Really excited.
All right, and that moves us to the final bout of the playoffs, round 1. We have the Clippers in Dallas in a nail-biting 7-game series. Where we watched the Game 7, but overall of the series, what do you think?
It was Luka versus LA. Yes, Luka was exceptional. They had Dorian Finney-Smith, who was good. I have not mentioned Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis has been so disappointing. People were giving him Pandemic P nicknames. People were saying him and Kuzma will play in China next year. They're going to ball out.
No.
Luka and Porzingis are like Kobe and Shaq, but Luka is Kobe and Shaq. Looking at how they used Kristaps, I wasn't happy. He should maybe have the ball a little bit more, and Porzingis was complaining about how he should have the ball more. But when you don't hit the shots you're supposed to, make, and you play as bad as you did, I don't see why you should complain, to be honest. You have been injury prone for most of your career. You don't hit the shots you need. You don't get as many rebounds as you should when you're 7-3. And quite frankly, Luka is the Dallas team. If they can ship Porzingis off to another team and they can get somebody else who really wants to do their role properly, and they will do much better, in my opinion. But if Porzingis wants to flourish in the NBA, he should stay healthy, and if he's in another team, he should probably maybe see how it is being the main guy, as he was in New York again. But most importantly, it has to be health. Dorian Finney-Smith, incredible. Tim Hardaway Jr. was absolutely incredible. Luka Doncic, man. I think the next 20s, the 2020 to 2029, I think Luka will run rampant for these next 10 years. I think he'll definitely win at least an MVP or 2. He'll 100%, and I believe it'll be up from here for Dallas. looking at how Luka gets more playoff experience, looking at how I remember in the first quarter, he scored 11 straight, torching Zubac with step-back threes. Nobody can stop the man. So, yeah. With Clippers, I'm impressed with Kawhi Leonard, as usual, showing out why he is a top 5 player in the league, one of the best defenders, one of the best offensive players in the league. And Paul George, he was actually incredible as well, compared to last season, of course. But other than that, Terrence Mann, Game 7, he showed out as well. 50% from the field, double-digit points, and came up with great hustle plays.
I also got to shout out Luke Kennard, who had a lot of did not play coach decisions for most of the year. Game 7, he stepped up, scored a couple of threes, also 11 points. The role players came in clutch after some games where the role players didn't do much for the Clippers team. So, I mean, Kawhi, in that Game 6, he was just fantastic. Overall in the series, he was fantastic. George, he could be better, but still a lot better than last year. And, I was surprised that they started playing Nicholas Batum at center. He played 42 minutes in that Game 7. But I guess if Ibaka is injured and you don't want Zubac starting because he can't shoot, that could be a problem. So I'm going to be interested to see how they move forward with Utah as they have Gobert. That's going to be a big struggle if they have Batum on Gobert. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. But for Dallas, I agree with the Porzingis thing. I also think that Finney Smith and Tim Hardaway played amazing. And they should definitely try to re-sign Hardaway as he's going to be a free agent. But for Porzingis, I don't even know. Like, there have been a lot of videos where people say that him and Luka don't have good chemistry, that they don't really talk with each other, and that he's been pissed overall about how the season went. So I don't even know. Like, do you think a trade will happen? Do you think Porzingis is out after this year?
I don't think Porzingis will be out, but I believe he is definitely on the market. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas pulled off a trade, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him as well, because Porzingis still we've yet to see how he is fully healthy. So if he's fully healthy and he balls out well with Luka, that's great, keep him. But if he still is injury prone, they still struggle a bit, I'd say trade him.
I think for the way how they play in Dallas, I think another guard or forward, like a small forward, would be good for this team, like a second option. Because the way they use their bigs is mostly stand in the corner or a lot of pick and rolls or just screens. So I think Porzingis was just underutilized in this playoffs. Do you think the same thing?
I think the same thing, definitely. He was the main guy in New York. He was an all-star. And he doesn't get as many touches. It of course explains production going down. But why can't he just demand the ball and do something himself then? If he really wants to show what he can do, why can't he demand the ball and maybe do a one-on-one play? Because he could somewhat take players off the dribble one-on-one, and he can just post up and fade over you.
Yeah, maybe it was just because of the adjustments, but for this playoff round against the Clippers, he really didn't show out as much. He didn't get the ball. In the regular season, he had his good games. But yeah, this playoff run maybe just showed the direction where Dallas has to go and what they have to do in the offseason. So you got to keep an eye on them as well, as many teams who are bound to make some changes. But for the Clippers, I'm excited to see them playing Utah in the second round. I think the second round in the Western Conference is going to be crazy. Like, I think any team could win, and seeing how one of either Utah, LA, Phoenix, or Denver is going to be in the finals right now just baffles me, because at the start of the year I wouldn't really think a team other than the Lakers would make the finals.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, It's crazy to see how the Lakers got out of the first round. I believe any team out of those four would provide a great matchup for Brooklyn. But Brooklyn is just absurd at this point.
I like how we say Brooklyn as we know that they're going to make the NBA Finals.
I mean, come on. Looking at how they played they're currently playing versus Milwaukee, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. So I guess this wraps up our round 1 coverage. And we will tune in on the next episode where we cover the semifinals and how teams played there.
We'll see you.